All right, here we go again. Well, it was pretty well. It was interesting how some of there were some messaging, like direct messaging. So the first hymn was 254, right? And then the second hymn was or the other hymn was 220. So in 220, if you look at the words, it says, "I will learn thy healer's art." And I always say, people say that they're not their brother's keeper. Right? So that's in there too. So again, as I continue down that road, more of the information that was in my mind is out there again. Again, somebody should have known that I should have been in the LDS for whatever reason. Again, government people have let us down way too long. That's called letting us down. Again, years ago, I tell you, I was disappointed in you. I think we're past disappointed. In the name of Jesus. Why they put these pools on the main road? I guess because it's the cheapest plot of land, but you got girls wearing nothing over there. First off, not everybody wants to see it, especially when they depart church. Can we heal it? Second, that's abduction land right there. So what I would do is I would actually build a privacy fence. That's what I would, if I were, I don't know, where am I at, Olathe? Yeah. If I was Olathe PD, I would recommend, not an emergency, but they could even just do, you put fabric in there if you have to, like some sort of material, instead of building a privacy fence, connect in some blocks so people can't see the pool, right? At least from the main road. So that would require two sides. The people to pool, should I say. I thought that was a neat song, or hymn. I will learn thy healing art. That probably, I bet you there's a bunch of doctors. I realize there's a bunch of doctors in the LDS. That's probably where it comes from. You sing that song and guy goes beep. Right. Oh, Satan was in there more. Satan was attacking it. I kept yelling it. That's how I know it's the real deal. He's one of the real deals. Oh yeah, this is the other thing. So they conferred me, I guess, to the Aaronic priesthood. And as I'm doing that, I get a vision, and I'm not even thinking about it. I get a vision of the Kohanim. They had their hands on top of my head, and then the vision, as soon as I saw the hands, like in my mind, Kohanim, and then which is the the original Aaronic priesthood. And they said, they showed up, and it was like, it was all of them. I guess we call them upper lights or something, but it was Kohanim. It was, like Vilnagon, Eliezer of Worms, probably Rabbi Shimon, they're all there, and they go, we accept them. So they accepted them. Again, it might be just getting me in like that did it. I don't know if that's something that happened today. So the upper lights were here for that. Nothing you could see externally, but and they said we accept them. And of course, the Aaronic priesthood accepts them. Again, it's about the affections of the heart, and that's even in Judaism. So again, Judaism is progressive. What you read in the first books of the Old Testament isn't necessarily what you read in the last books of the Old Testament. Same thing in the New Testament. But people, especially, it's funny because he said we're conservative. It's a good place to grow up. This is a conservative area. Da 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 da. And but conservative people miss the mark. But again, I think they're more like Volvo Republicans. That's what we used to call them. I guess that disappeared kind of, didn't it? Right. That's probably what I am. I mean, if I had to. I guess that makes me what do they call that? A rhino, that's it. But like I said, Republicans don't cause turmoil. They don't cause upheaval. Thank you, friend. Thank you. There was a sexualization thing going on, and I think it may have involved people being inserted, but we'll have to keep that under observation. That'll be online and offline. I don't really know if they're members of the church, to tell you the truth. Like I said, that's one of the most difficult things is when you move into a community or when you're investigating that type of thing. I guess FBI could find out, but if you're moving into a community or moving into a church, are these people before you just as new as you are, trying to represent themselves as old, longtime members of the church? Great, sir. I can already tell. The Lord said, regardless of what happened, all these people in the West, I have people everywhere I need blessed and healed. And if you went to the church, you'd have been mostly with the church. I guess if I'd have done the door knocking, I could have healed everybody. I guess it's still not an exact science. As God says, okay, let's go this way. Let's go that way. I'm going to heal people over here. Right. And Lord, I healed some. There were some deaf people and stuff, and mutes and mute. So I was healing those people. I do it nonchalantly, and Lord goes, make sure everybody remembers that the more you heal people that have a certain disability or handicap, the more likely we'll find science to heal. Oh, he thought I was going to turn. Now, I don't know if they actually turned every light red while I was driving in, but it seemed like it was timed that way. So it could be Satan's stance. And I'm not lying. As I drove in, I saw the last parking spots being parked in. Now I drove to a side street real quick and I found a spot, and then a woman was coming in and said that she couldn't walk too far, and I told her, well, my vehicle's over there, I can move it. And, the Lord's like, okay, you're disabled and you're going to move your vehicle for her because she's disabled. But she's like, no, I'll find something. So, Brother Gregoria brought up again the fact, or he brought up a topic that they speak on because people get discouraged. Like, nobody's going to like bear their sins all day in front of the public. So, the church has these high requirements. And these requirements, we all have trouble with something. Of course, the longer you're in a church, is an honest church. I put that out there because that's very important. Well, some church members will you to fail. There's some churches that will will you to fail because they either don't like you, or they just they have an issue with people being they feel what do they call that, inferior, inferior complex. The easier it is. But he said, look, I don't know, did we instruct these people wrong? He probably lived the life that I probably should have lived. And again, when I say I should have lived it, maybe you should have lived it too. So again, let's not forget that. So, thank you, Larry. He said, the Savior's love will cover that sin. You're not to like wantonly embrace sin, and that's an individual thing. Again, healed, unhealed. When you're healed, you'll embrace less sin. But he said, because they're just people get discouraged and drop out and all that kind of thing. You'll get people that'll tell you every so often. I think his wife, one guy's wife. I think she spoke on it. There's a couple people that they'll just say it just so you know, and it's always good when you're in a church to help people understand that it's a process. And like I said, the Lord blessed me with one thing. I asked the Lord when I would stop sinning, and the Lord said, "On your deathbed, now let's get working. We got things to do." So that's really, again, when we look at the effectuations of the heart, you become and a lot of people don't get it. You also become a bigger target at times when you're really infatuating your heart. Boy, it's warm today, and I'm in a suit. Yeah, the Lord told me to wear my black suit last night. I tell you, it's difficult to sit there, but after I sit for a while and I stand, I kind of feel a little better. So, there's the skink. When my eyes get so crusty, I have that kind of allergy. No, from what I'm seeing, no wonder Joseph Smith was killed. These devils cursing the church and its people. Right. Thanks, Lord. I'm beginning to think that the high blood pressure might be from stress, right? I mean, see, I can't take all the stuff I used to take to keep it down, right? For some reason, I can't take melatonin. I don't know. It doesn't give me that sleep anymore. Kind of, causes like side effects and stuff. So kind of sad, but it's just a great opportunity to heal people. Like they don't understand healing like I do, but that's okay. But it's in one of their songs, right? Like the one we sang today. Let me see if I can find it. I'll have to get my other phone. I guess I'll do that, or pull it up here on the big screen. Nah, they knew what they were doing. They kept me isolated, so nobody could heal me. Right? Just by the nature of being around people, you will heal. Right? Oh, I think I unplugged that. Mm. This guy Gary, guy that was Polish ancestry. He's a pretty good guy. He tries. Older guy. His wife's sick. He's been sick. Good guy. And these are my witnesses. That's what I'm witnessing as far as their church. And I can't, at this point, I can't hold them culpable for me not being able to get to their church. To the contrary, it's the people that come against their church. Right. So again, if I know my Father in heaven, again, it's not only me, it's them. But they got me there, and all of a sudden, right, they were planning to divide the stake. They're going to have new buildings. They're going to have, and the bishop's hoping they get a plot of land large enough for a new temple. So it'd be easier for us. So you see? Now, it could be both ways. Maybe they were powering up anyway, but I told you that if you take care of me, God will bless you. Correct. Told you that for you. Thank you, Larry. Now, you don't need people to give you money for harming me when you take care of me. You'll be blessed. Right. 2% Larry. Thank you, friend. I don't believe I had a blood pressure problem like I did for a brief time when I had the COVID and all that, but I was able to overcome that, I believe. And, I've been taking my blood pressure recently. I mean, it wasn't, it wasn't the lowest, but it was definitely down in the 130s. And then all of a sudden it went crazy. Right. It was at a point where I don't know, maybe because my body's loosening. Could that increase the pressure until the heart adjusts for it? I don't know. Right. Because if you're tight, but then that would show up in the pressure, right? Right. It should be higher if you're tight. Could be his allergies too. Gosh. Right. So Amazon blessed me with 2 nice suits. A little bit of an issue getting those suits. Right. So they got a lot of kids there. It's a lot of healing for me. They all come up all messed up. Because again, if you remember when kids are young, a lot of crazy stuff tends to happen in their life. Right. And they get all emotional. Well, that's being unhealed. So when you heal them, that should, but for the worst cases. Right. The Lord assures me that the reasonings for why this all happened, will be apparent in the afterlife and apparent at this point. Well, to a certain degree, it's apparent that the Lord has a plan, and that the plan isn't always about us. Like, because I was a target of the deep state, if I had moved into the church before, who knows what would have happened? You may have had, more people leave. Like, for me to get in the church, another 1,000 had to leave their church. You see? Now, the Lord works through the systems that are here. So there takes participation of a certain type. We agree. What they did is they had what's called the Olathe Award, and we were all in the Olathe Award. And now there's an additional award, which is additional, would be a sub church, I guess you could call it. And that's going to be the Overland Park Ward. So Overland Park now has its own LDS ward, whereas it was just part of the Olathe Award. So it's a big deal. And then I joined, just in time for the stake where they announced that this is it, it's official. It's like another month it's going to happen. And they'll get additional missionaries possibly in the area. It's more than just Overland Park. I think it involves a couple other communities, but it's the Overland Park. So Overland Park didn't have its own ward. No, there's no way that what happened should have happened. Again, it's the same thing as Jesus being crucified. The Lord said to me that Jesus didn't need to be crucified, but based upon what was going on the planet, Jesus needed to be crucified. And again, he didn't need to be crucified, but since he was crucified, the Lord used it. Right. Jesus came to earth knowing he was going to be crucified, is what I understand. But again, when you're in heaven, you're like, you're going to be crucified. Okay, I'll be crucified. Big deal. And then he gets there. I mean, I think we've all had some of those moments. Lord, take this cup away. Right. My mission's huge, believe me. Lord reminds me all the time. Like when I left the government, I didn't write delusions of grandeur. I wrote visions of grandeur on my retirement paper because I had already woke up to some of it. People in the government may have known too, Like when people leave government, sometimes the people doing the processing the paperwork know. Yeah, right. The dude woke up. Right. Well, we couldn't be around them. I tried for years to be around them. I was being nice. I did all the extra work, told the boss to let them go home early. Oh my God. Thanks, Sherry. I gave the new guys all the overtime. I didn't take the overtime all that much myself. I think I did for the beginning of the trial, but somewhere in the middle of the trial, I just kind of said, you guys handle it, because I knew that they had learned well. Right. Right. I was pretty much the go-to man on the high threat trials. There are a couple other people that did some, but after a while, it was just my name kept coming up. Right. Well, U.S. attorneys pretty much probably requested me. I mean, by the time I left, they weren't going to say, like, it's just the craziest world, man. Like, I was supposed to go to different offices, and they said, well, you should be flattered. Baltimore requested you by name. And that, before I went to the academy, right before I went to the academy. I was supposed to go to Chicago, East St. Louis, or Detroit, which would have been a whole different life. Probably would have took care of me there. It's just the office of disgruntled people generally. I mean, right. Because the other people that got attacked had done a stint in Washington, D.C., we had a bunch of deputies from Washington, D.C., because I think my chief was from that area, had worked in that area in Virginia. Right. So it's like a whole different world at Superior Court. So there's Superior Court, D.C., which is you do a lot of different stuff there, and it's just a heavy work. Right. It's like working in a prison almost, right? And then also do some fugitive. Right. Thanks. It's a bigger operation. But see, they had already built up credit and already had their careers moving forward. Like if they'd have went straight to Baltimore, they'd have had a life like mine. I guarantee it. I agree. And then, the weird part is they're like down on my BOP time. I did a couple years in the BOP because why? It just made sense, to go that direction. And I think I was kind of holding out for that position, right? And when it came up, I took it, right? Thanks, sir. I only interviewed for one other position. That was a customs. I don't even remember what the position was. I don't think it was an investigator, or maybe it was. I don't remember. I think maybe a customs investigator. I didn't feel comfortable about that one, but I felt comfortable about the Marshal Service and the BOP. BOP asked me for like a year or something. You're going to give us at least a year or something like that. I think it was 2 years or a year. I can't remember. And I gave it to them. No, they put me under their spell, man. I couldn't get anywhere. They shouldn't be around people, whoever they are. I mean, it landed with, for them. I mean, I should have been seen more disabled, but of course now I'm seen more disabled than I was before. But yeah, it's their illusion. No, Lord, it's not like the Lord told me. I realized that people that did me well in life were blessed, like the Marshal Service. And the weird part, when I left, they were all celebrating the fact that it wasn't going to be an automatic promotion to GS-12. I'm like thinking, you're just giving away everything, aren't you? they're rotten people, man. And it's not automatic 1811, right? It's rotten people, man. They makes them feel superior. Well, because then they control who gets the GS-12. Then they, and it's not the hardest work, but I'll tell you that. It's the biggest deep state bum that they can find, right? They'll do whatever they ask, as far as corruption. Who would celebrate your agency losing automatic VS12? The people I worked with. Not all of them, but a good portion. Well, to them, it also meant that they could be lazier, right? Because then they could, like, now they're superior and these other people have to do all the work. I know they get reorganized after I left. A lot of people became those NBC people. Yeah, I had a chance for another life. They just wouldn't let it happen, man. Sickos. Some yogurt and noodles. Nice healthy food. So my name's Moore, but not every time that Moore is spoken, the name Moore, or the word Moore in conversation does it apply to me. But at work today, it was applying. It was pretty accurate. While they were speaking. It's just a strange church because so many of the church people were, they come from LDS families. I think I've been speaking on that before. I got sidetracked. The Baptist church, a lot of the Baptist churches I was in, that's pretty much what it was. There's certain families over the years. The blood pressure thing doesn't make any sense. So. Right. Something popped in there. Right. Well, because I'm exercising additionally and my blood pressure goes up. That makes sense. So I'm really careful when I'm eating. I know everybody's thinking it. Do they? Right. So the Baptist church was all these families. But it's been like that since, like the 60s or 70s when it was built. Right. So they're like, founding families of that particular church. And there was a school attached to the one church. So you can see that prejudice, right? Like certain names. Right. But the one guy that helps me is pretty much a really good guy. His family name, in the leadership in Salt Lake City, you'll see his family name. He's a good guy. I pick up things nobody else does, right? So I've been around it before, right? A lot of people in church, they're just busy in life. Like I wasn't like that. I would partially why I lost my family. Again, if I had a wife that could participate, it would have been better. So I guess when I go to the temple, I have to start engaging in religious process for my ancestors. Again, it's a very large system, and if God does it, then that's fine, right? Well, the key to the scriptures, one of the keys, is it's God's will that none should perish. That should jump out at you and hit you in the head. But if you continue on in the scripture, you might lose it, right? Well, that was good. Thank you there. Right. Okay. So, Miss, if you heal people with an illness, that contributes to the freeing of the mind in scientific investigation to find cures for the illnesses and disabilities and all of that. The one thing about healing, like birth defect type of disabilities, that might lead to some genetic engineering. Again, I don't find that DNA was put there by anybody else but God. Again, that's a healing art, learning how to manipulate DNA so people are healthy. Thank you, Larry. My sinuses are horrible. Had a normal life. I got probably, but again, there's an entire system involved in me getting there. Not just a simple like the missionaries, and that was it. It's probably the easiest church to get into. Right. Right. So the biggest message that Gregoria wanted people to walk away with at the end, fact is, if you're failing, that's natural. You're attempting to become supernatural. Right? He didn't necessarily say that part, but that's generally what Christ was considered supernatural. Right. So, of course, there's going to be failings. It's not to embrace sin, but The Bible says sin will happen. It's going to happen. People that think they don't sin is a lie. They say they don't sin is a lie. They're liars. So they want to encourage people not to sin. So there's only certain ways that you can say it without encouraging sin, right? Or maybe discouraging somebody from trying harder. But he was concerned that the church had taught people wrong because they didn't learn about the love of Christ that covers the sin. That although you're failing, you're not a failure, right? Now we all sin. Your mind sins. I guarantee you have a thought today that disparages somebody. It's just it takes somebody down. It's a sin. Correct. See, it's that simple. No, I should have been. I should have been in the church. They wouldn't let me be in the church. Ruled me out, I guess. Who knows how much they paid for it? Thanks, Larry. No, the LDS Church is probably one I should have been in much younger, and I could have. I could have actually. It would have been a great life. I mean, it was all the thing. They have a lot of service-oriented positions. I would have eventually healed, been married, right? A few positions in the church. Thank you, Larry. And it's like really weird because Nuvo, I guess I call it. Is it Nuvo? All right. I don't like getting with Nuvo. And that joke. All right, so God does this thing. It's still not me. Like if I say something and God passes, just the way God does it. There's chances that the LDS Church has heard me over the years, and maybe even Joseph Smith. Right. Again, if I hear from them, generally, I don't hear a lot from Joseph Smith, but generally, if I hear them, they might hear me. I've been asked inside if I was Moroni, and no, I'm not Moroni. And LDS, I guess, was hearing me. Well, they're good at describing, that this is a more like everything I said is there, independent of what they said. 'Cause, I said I'm in a mortal body. I'm an angel, but this is my, I'm in a mortal body. Right. So they have that concept where this is a mortal body. Well, as far as, God having a flesh and blood body, if he wants to, he can. I mean, he can create anything he wants. Right. But he still doesn't enter in like we do. Right. It's a whole different thing. I mean, he still experiences it, but because God said it's more like the holodeck from his perspective, the Star Trek holodeck. There's a lot of stuff in Star Trek. Oh my! Need to get some more over there. I said I need to get some more hangers, and I turned around, and I didn't those hangers that I hadn't seen at all. Not to say they weren't there, but I don't know if they were or weren't. A bunch of hangers, and then in the same thought, I have to get more hangers. I have to get the ones like, the special ones that I had that have the friction strips, so I can hang my pants and they won't fall off. We're actually there. No, Now, doctors are saying stuff to me now that makes sense, and they weren't supposed to be around me then. Right? I have no idea what was wrong with the doctors that saw me, but I went through quite a few visits about my stomach, and nobody ever questioned. They never said that, oh, we don't know what's wrong. And I'm like thinking, what do you mean you don't know what's wrong? They never even told me anything about what could be wrong that makes any sense. So I have no idea what they may have done. No, my sinuses are screwed up. My eyes are screwed up. I want to rest a little bit here. Figure out what I'm going to do soon. I got to clean up the apartment. I got to message the mercenaries, the missionaries, and find out what that might entail this week if they need me for anything. They want to have a class or. I don't know what their workload's like. I would have loved to have been a missionary like that. I mean, that's great stuff. Well, they got to, when you knock on a door and you don't get a result you want, you have to pray for them and heal them. Because they're not going to understand it until they're healed. Yeah, right. We talk about their agency, but there's other things going on that are in the scriptures. No, it's not. It's not absolute free will. There is free will if you get free. If you're healed, then you have some free will. God's actually in my mind right now. God refuses to judge anybody. God's not going to play that game that doesn't have their free, a certain level of free will, and it takes a certain amount. Again, I recommend everybody accept Jesus Christ. There's no reason not to. I bought the large black watch socks, and they're tight. Glad I didn't buy any smaller ones. Someone was trying to will me to buy a smaller one. I wouldn't even get my feet in there. It's like I got to be made for women initially because they're supposedly large. They need to move them away. I'm telling you that right now. You need to move the people that are spending all that time messing with my life away. You really do. Oh, God, I'm sure God will change. When God changes, it's not always good. They're just sickos in reality.